All praise to the Most. Hallelujah. Welcome back to this is Venezuela checking in for another time from the Kodesh homestead. Just having a little apologies for the late start. Just having a little bit of sorry for the feedback. Sorry for the feedback. Sorry for the feedback. Sorry for the feedback. Shalom, shalom. Hope you can hear me. Just trying to have a little bit of technical. Just having a little bit of technical. But now let the Most High be praised for this day. Hallelujah. 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 I'm just having a little bit trying to organize the screen. Hopefully I can be heard out there. Shalom. Again. Yeah, let's have a praise. Seem like I'm up and running. I'm trying not to keep this live broadcast too long, but as concise as possible. Let the Most High be praised, and we always give Him thanks for all that He has done and for keeping us this day. I have an interesting topic I want to just briefly touch on. Single mothers wanting marriage. It's been something that I've talked about within my own circle, within my family as well, about this topic and the state of our communities. And I mean, for our communities, this is directly in relation to our people. And if anyone else outside of our community find any information that is edifying, let the Most High be praised, right? But I thought to touch on this topic. It could be that it has been very long overdue to just chat about it quickly because of the state of our communities, within our people, within our society, which we live. And I wanted to just bring something to the surface that I have encountered myself personally, and I wanted to, prayerful that it can be a little bit edifying for someone out there to actually look in the mirror and to consider certain things, right? So, single mother wanting to get married. Let's hop right into it. I mean, it is no secret that our communities, our people, we have a high level of single mothers. It's no secret that in our communities, a lot of men have dropped their seeds and leave them behind, and thus creating a lot of single mother household. Whatever the circumstances that lead to some of these situations, I don't have all the statistics about it, but I've seen within my circle and the ratio for the where I have seen it, and it is very appalling. So our communities are full of single mothers. I've talked to single mothers, and they do have desire to get married. They do have desire that a husband may find them someday. You know, they have children, a child or children with someone else, wherever that person may be. And in many cases, at least in almost all the cases that I can remember that I've seen and I've spoken to other single mothers, their, their their child or children, father or fathers, are not deceased. So they were like had no other option but to fend for themselves and to take care of their children. So in many cases, or in most cases, the fathers are alive and they're somewhere out there, somewhere else, you know, with someone else, another lady, another woman, in prison, you know, all the different things that plague our community, right? But especially I want to focus on single mothers who have a desire and would love to get married someday. And some things to consider because it's very important because I've had this conversation in my household and it's very important. Whether or not that single mother um, is going to get married and how it's approached. I believe there are certain things that needs to be considered and has to be considered because myself will have to consider certain things if I was to be looking at a single mother having a child. And just to, based on statistics, based on the conversation, based on discussion out there, just to let everyone know, the most preferred person that is more suitable for marriage for a man to choose his bride is a woman without children. That's the most preferred sister to be sought after, a woman who has no children. So, but nonetheless, women with children, you know, can be considered, are considered, and are also getting into marriage, right? So, and what we want for people in our community is strong families, building back our communities, building back strong families, because we're tired of seeing the young men, the young women, raising up with a mother alone. Father is nowhere to provide the guidance and the counsel and the discipline for that home, and therefore the child has grown lacking in some sense or form. A mother can do her best that she can, but in terms of having the balance for the child um, or children without a father in the home, the child will be imbalanced. Because as we see, the father has created man and woman to come together to bring a child. And if it wasn't so, a woman could just have give birth without coming together with a man. So if it takes two to create or to make a child, it only stands true that it takes two to raise a child properly, because that child would need a balance. The child need a balance between the man and the woman to be brought up properly. The male, the son and the daughter need the masculine, which is male, feminine, female energy and balance to be brought up together and to brought up properly, and so that child will be balanced. Let Yah be praised, because as you know, here on the Kodesh Garden, whatever day it is, whatever time it is, and we come online, we must be speaking in the light of the Most High, and not deviate from His righteousness. But and we want to bring things out that is in guidance with with all things that have been revealed and shown to us and what we have seen out there. So let the Most High be praised, in all things, and just to point that out, just to point that out. But nonetheless, we must speak about certain things, and I think sometimes it can be an elephant in the room, can be the elephant in the room, and sometimes it's not even known that this is an elephant in the room, because I've seen where women come together with a man with a child, and the result of parenting that child that is not of his line, of his seed, it becomes chaotic, it's become problematic in the household, right? And we should have the conversation. We should have the conversation. Whether or not that woman's going to enter into a house, a man's house, or coming together with a man who in a relationship where the man has no other woman, or she's going to come into a house with a man in a relationship where he has an existing family. Whichever method of the coming together of the join to a family, right? Whichever of the option of join to a family, then that is up to that discussion between those parties. But I think it's very important to have those type of conversation discussion. What are the expectations? What do we look out for? What are the signs? What are some of the things that has to be discussed? You know, what are the concerns? How are we going to make this work? And what are we, you know, and because marriage is very serious. It's a very important part of our bringing up. You know, marriage is very, it's ordained by the Most High, and it is very important. And we want to see, at least from my perspective where I'm sitting, I want to start to see we're building back strong families, building back our communities. It's too broken. And whenever I'm on the road conducting business and I meet people out there and I'm talking to sisters and you might see them in the field and such delights, and when you ask them, are you married? Where's your husband? They talk about man is not there, he's not around, and all the different jazz. And it makes me very uncomfortable because what is happening is I'm seeing where our people are bleeding. It's emerging. We are, our community is suffering because there's no focus on the family. And especially single mothers who, for whatever reason, are not with their child or children father, who still have a desire to get married. I talked to one. I was doing a work at a location and I ran into a sister that was there and I was doing some work and she was close by. And one of her comments was, she don't think she has a few children with no husband. And I think one of her comments that she don't know if any man want to marry her. I don't know if will ever get married. And I understand her position because when a man looks to take a woman, there are a lot of criterias and there are a lot of conditions that has to be met for that union to be successful. And when I'm talking about single mothers, having a child is a very important factor to consider the child. It can, based on what I've seen and life experience, to have a relationship or enter into marriage, courting a sister who has a child or children, the conversation of the child must be in the conversation. If I'm not doing running words here, but there must be conversation around the children, and they're supposed to the father or fathers, because we do have our sisters in the community with children with one father or multiple fathers. And sometimes you're not the most sought after sister, but there are certain situations and certain circumstances that led people to be in a certain condition, and they may be very well decent people and would make a good wife as well. So, and that's why I wanted to raise something that peradventure that you may come across this information and you find anything edifying or things to consider. Let the Most High be praised. I know some things might come off a bit harsh, but we just gotta bring bring it to the fold. We just gotta bring it and just say it like it is, and then you can dissect it or you like or how you prefer to digest it if you choose to eat it. So there are things that have to be considered, and the discussion around the child or the children must take place. Too many times people have seen outside in communities, and that's why the most, first and foremost, let me just pause a bit on this. First and foremost, man and woman must have the fear of the Most High upon them to enter into a righteous relationship. The fear of the Father has to be. I didn't say this at the beginning, but let me just say it now. The fear of the Father, the Most High, must be within that man and within that woman to have a palatable relationship. So, to have a relationship that is solid, because we must build on the foundation of the rock of the Most High. So, that being said, I can continue. Um, the conversation around the children must happen. The child or children must happen because I've, it cannot be where you're entering a relationship or courting a sister and she has a child and you're not discussing the welfare of the child and how it's going to be handled. And especially the father of the child is still alive. And in some cases, the father still wants to play a role in the child or children's life. In some cases, the father is still sending money to that woman, right? In some cases, the father is still sending money. And we know within our community from experience, and if you as a man take on a woman with their child or children, I'm going to keep this child to not to be too repetitive, but and the child grows up and become ready for graduation, going to university, then the father suddenly want to come back in the life of that child. How is my daughter or my son, and then so in the beginning, from the beginning, the conversation must be had about the child and how it's going to be dealt with and how it's going to handle. Because I heard a sister speak about this. She had written a book, my older sister than me. Um, she has written a book and she mentioned something in an interview that a sister was having with her. And it really down to me and it really connected with me that she said she was married and her husband passed. And when her husband passed and she remarried again, she gave her children over to her new husband. Now, that was a very profound statement that I've heard. It was so profound to me that I connected with and resonated with me, because when a man is courting a sister who has a child, the question is, can that woman, our woman, come to the knowledge of understanding that she should give that child over to her husband and let him lead his family? Can they come to that condition of their mind to say, I am giving my husband my children? Because what I've seen in the community is that women with their children, they hold on to their children dearly, and there's nobody but more to them like their child, even their husband that they belongs to. And it will cause conflict because she will not be under her humility, under the authority of her husband, right? She would be acting separate, you know. And I've heard women say, I love my children more than anybody else. There's nobody above my children. You know, I fell victim of those conversations in terms of growing up, and I've seen it around. Because at the end of it, a man and a woman comes together to become one. Not a man and his child, not a man and his children, not a woman and her child or her children. It's a man and a woman who comes together. Thus says the word. Because one thing for sure, we know, and anybody who have grown children, or I am a grown child of my parents. Now my parents are just by themselves, living together, because all their children are grown and have left the nest, because now husband, sons find wife and move on again to join their own family. So the union is with the wife and the husband and the wife, not with the children. So we must understand, and these are things that has to be understood in the name of relationship, to have the fear of the Most High, to know what the Father has prescribed for relationship and marriages. Because I'm tired of seeing our people in trouble marriages and people just walking away. I've known people that I've seen and I consider to be a beautiful family. And then after a while, I heard they're divorced and gone in the separate ways far from each other. And now the mother has the children. What's going to happen to the children? There's no guidance and direction and discipline from the father. Or people are bleeding too much, and I'm tired of seeing it. And while I'm speaking on these other topics, but I want to stay on topic with the single mothers, wanting to get married. But because it's marriage and family, sometimes it digress a little bit out, but not to digress too far. And look at single mothers wanting to be married. me and my wife has had this conversation, and we, you know, and even when we consider about even our own household, where we live, and this condition of where we are and where we like to go and what we need to make our house fully functional. If and we look at options around, and we are talking, and we've been having conversation about if there's a sister that has a child, and how a man who is courting that child should approach it. Because what will happen to that child when the man comes in the house? Because we know from our own communities that when a child is involved, sometimes there's visitation rights with the father, right? And the child will go and visit the father and come back, and there's that, and share custody. So that wife now is under the authority of two men, basically having two husbands, so to speak, right? And as we know as men, as I'm a man, my house, I have to be the one who is the head of my the scripture says the man is the head of the woman, but I will be the head of my household. And growing up, we hear talk like two bull cannot trade in one pen. And these are things that will cause conflict. I said to a sister one time, I was talking to a sister casually, and we're talking, she has a child, and I was saying to her, so do you have, ask her, do you have a desire to get married? And she said, yeah, I'd love to get married, right? And where's the son's father? He's around. I think she mentioned he must, he's around somewhere, and he still contribute to the child's support in some sense, not as much as she would like, but he still contributes some things. And I was like, okay, so if your husband, you get married and stuff, and what role will the child's father play in your son's life or your child's life? And she was like, yeah, I guess it's going to remain the same, or it's going to be. I'm like, okay, so whose voice is gonna be heard? Who's gonna take the lead? Who's gonna have a responsibility for that child in terms of instruction and guidance? Because, and I posted, I said, okay, the child father come and take out the child for ice cream or whatever, or they take him out to have fun, and people in society tend to be okay with it. Then the father, the biological father of the child, may say, you know what? And the children can be very sneaky. Children can be, you know, they they know how to play, or try at least to play on the nerves of parents and set them and try to use one, or children are they're very crafty that way. I said to her, what if the child say to his dad, or the child say to the dad, his or her dad, hey, is it okay for me to, when I think about me, if it's okay for me to maybe have some game before I do my homework? And the biological father was like, yeah, nothing wrong with that. It should be fine. But then the woman husband says, no, homework first before ice cream. So I ask her, word is going to stand? Whose word is going to stand? The child's father or your husband? And she was a bit hesitant, but she answers, hey, she would, I would suppose that should be the husband who's going to stand. And what I try to point out is there's going to be that conflict. So the conversation must be had if a man is courting a woman with a child, because who is going to have responsibility for that child? Now we know, and this is my position in the faith, that I don't have the authority to tell a man he cannot take care of his seed, because it's his seed, it's not mine. I do not have that authority to say your child is going to be with me and I'm going to hold that child. That child belongs to the man. Okay? Now, the challenge comes in now, right? When challenged, but when the woman with a child on their court, right? The conversation must be at the forefront, right, about the position of the child. Because if the father of that child wants his child, which he rightly should, because a man must take care of his kid, right? If he wants his child, no, that's the right way to go. But what I see is that a lot the woman, they hold to the children at the detriment of marriage anyway. If a man, the courting a potential husband, is saying the father want the child, it's better to keep the child. The woman, in many cases, that I've seen an experience, I'm talking to people around, they will say, I will not get into a relationship. I'll just keep my child and try to raise my child myself. So then, for it does not become a part of a family. She doesn't have a support system. She doesn't have that physical support and that emotional support, because she would choose to say she's holding on to the child over marriage, because the man would say the father wants the child. Because we weren't taught these things, obviously. We taught that the seed of the child belongs to the man and not the woman. Right? We weren't taught these things. And because most of the time, and because we're in a feminist society, the rights are given to the children, to the mother, most of the time, right? Because of the society that we're living in. But when you look at the biblical structure, the seed belongs to the man, right? The child belongs to the man. This is a male or female, to the father. So a woman will want to hold on to that as a prized possession at the detriment of being married. Now, why I'm having this type of conversation is because people need to hear certain things. And based on what I've seen and experienced, people need to understand that, because if I am looking at a sister to say, hey, you have a child, it is very imperative that, for me, I will not be courting a son who have the potential and the capability to take my house. Because I can't take care of my house, I'm not ready to be married. I have to be in a position to take care of the sister. And if she has a child, which is in this case we are talking about, I have to take care of her child or children. Because if I am courting a sister, she has 1, 2, or 3 children, right? I don't need no help from no other man out there. So all responsibility, because when we know that the scripture tells us in the book of Exodus chapter 2, right? I think it's verse 17. It says, all in the to the man. Everything belongs to the man. And if a woman, you take a woman into your house, and she has 3 children, she have a student loan of $1 million, she has all this debt. If you want to take her in without age, all that has belongs to you. And this is your responsibility as a man to manage these things properly. And these are some of the things talked about. And it can be an elephant, it can be an elephant in the room without having these discussions beforehand, before enter into marriage. Well, let's not see sisters as a object of intercourse. Let's not see sisters as just, we see sisters as our helpmeet. We see sisters as help us move along the family along and balance the boat and row the ship and grow the children that in fear of the Most High. So when a man courts a sister that has a child, don't ignore the fact that she has a child because you probably want to just get under her skirt. Don't ignore the fact that she has a child, but be seriously wanting a sister to be a part of your household and raise family and serve Most High. Because too much time in our communities, sisters are having, I've been talking about these things long before coming to the knowledge of the truth. I've been mentoring girls, young men. I've been doing something from a mentoring. I'm not a licensed, nothing at all, but I see and understand a lot of things. I've said to sister, this is just my plain. I've said, listen, sister, you have 1 child with this guy and you're not together with him. You have a 2nd child with another man and you're not with him. You got to put on brakes, because the moment you got too much children, you're not desirable, and the desirableness of a woman is coming far from you. Men who wanting a wife, put on that brakes. And if a man is not gonna get married to you, you don't open their legs. Basically, it is what it is. You don't just say, hey, because you're concerned about probably helping to pay something. A lot of times people fall in the victim of their own situation and circumstances. Let them then give in without consideration the whole factor, and then this man give her another child, and he didn't intend to raise and take care of any other man's seed. you just leave with 3 children, 3 different dads, and you're stuck in the middle. And then you become miserable, the children are miserable, and they are brought up miserable. It has to be known and it has to be understood. And I've said this to sisters before and already. If you find yourself in such you have to be stronger, because sometimes you don't have a father to defend and protect you from these predators and these men who just want to have a good time. You have to be strong to speak for yourself. You have to be strong to know that even if you're doing a little job and struggling to take care of your kids, do not be succumb to the fact that he takes you out. And as a matter of fact, we don't believe in coming together before marriage anyways, because we want our sisters should be married before, and not because child already, not because you have a child or children already, mean to say that because you know what it's like to get together with a man and come together with a man means you must stay together with this man. If not your husband, he must be a husband, and a woman should live with a woman should be his wife. But we know that a lot of our men are whoremongers, and they just want to sleep around and feel around. So not because you have children already and know what it's like to be in a position, and means that you shouldn't hold marriage. You must stand your ground. Because if he's serious about a relationship with you and build a life with you, then he will want you to be his wife. You don't need to, you know what coming together feels like, you know what it is, you understood it, and you understand it. So, in my encouragement to some of these sisters, stand your ground. Ask some really tough questions. Sometimes there's no man around to defend and ask questions for you. Sometimes there is no father around, no uncle. You're fending for yourself out there. Ask them a tough question too. We're going to put together your plans. What's going on? Because, as one popular artist says, if you not put a ring on it, then you not give it to him. Basically. Because I am tired of seeing our community bleed. I'm tired of seeing the single mothers out there and struggling, and the fathers just are gone up with another baby mama somewhere. But in the sense of you wanting to get mission, must be had about child, how it's going to be taken care of. Because, as I explained earlier, I should be in a position, if I'm approaching you, to take care of my responsibilities and all that you have that comes with it, thus says the word. So if I know you have a child or two, and I am not in a position to be responsible for all what you have, all your, as it called, handbags and all your baggage that you may have, if it's student loan debt, if it's a credit card debt, whatever, then those things, and that's why the courting stage come in place, because the word call it dating, that's what we talk about courting, right? The word call it engagement. The scripture is betrothal, right? So during the courting stuff needs to be established. What's going to happen to my child? Who's going to take the lead? The man need to understand that with the woman and establish that. And if this sister can be the person, like this elder sister who spoke and wrote a book and says, I'm going to give my children to my husband, or to her husband, rather, let me to be politically correct. If she's going to give her children to her husband, that means she's on her way to have a relationship that is successful, as long as the eye is in it. You know what I'm saying? Because then she would know that humbling herself under her husband. Not this children gonna talk back, say, you ain't my daddy. She's gonna slam his mouth or correct child instantly if she hears it. So a house can be in harmony. So this conversation has to be had within the courting. Conversation has to have what's going to happen to that child, children. Who's going to take it? Who's going to take it? Where's the father? Because I'm going to ask those tough questions, because I know what and where I'm going, and I know how my boat is. You know, so for me, and for my boat to be rowing, a sister come help row this boat, not to tower.
So these tough questions will be had, because if she's going to join a house, especially my house, then I must have all the capabilities as one. I must have full control of all that comes with you, because you belongs to me now. And if I knowingly take you and accept you with what you have, and all that you bring belongs to me. And just for the record, and yes, such as you may have a $2 million in debt, it's going to belong to the husband as well. Yes, if you have a $2 million in profit, it comes on the husband portfolio as well. No, we are not promoting any oppression. A man must have control of all his assets. He must know his asset and what he has, so he can work accordingly to make the successful family. And economics can grow and become better and can have balance and sustainability. So yes, though, all that she has belongs to her husband. He belongs to him. And the word gives us guidance. The father may come, and he says a man should not be alone. So he's going to make a helpmeet. And we know what happened. But after Eve was created, Most High brought Eve to him. So the Most High is the father and brings Eve to Adam. Okay? So he brings him his wife and say, here you go. And we see today in common practices, but many people may not even know that it's biblical. We see a father walking the daughter down the aisle. They don't even know that it's from the beginning. The father give away. And it's a biblical, it's a scriptural concept. Because it has already said so when he brought Eve to Adam. So yes, she belongs to him. And yes, the wife in today's time belongs to the husband. But men, is not an opportunity when you hear the truth to be oppressive and belongs to you. You must be in the rock and walking in the light of the Most High to manage things so you can have a successful family. And succession not necessarily mean that there's going to be disagreement. Not in the way we're living today and the indoctrination that we have a lot of miseducation for teachers and schools and our governments and our leaders. So we will have disagreements, but the Most High is in that relationship. His strength will work it out. His rock will help to guide and balance that ship. Does not topple. Because what? It is built on the foundation of the rock. It's a solid foundation. It's not a sand, a little wind come and topple over. Relationship on a solid foundation. When the wind blows, when the rain comes, when the storm comes, it may rock, it may flow to and fro, it will not be blown down because it's foundation. And that's what we want for our families. That's what we want to see in our communities. Tired of seeing single sisters around here fighting for themselves and trying to single mothers, because most about single mothers and some expectations, because it has to be set. And it cannot be, again, a man core sister and just ignore the child or the children because he's focusing on the woman. All the questions should be asked within the courting stage. Because once you ask a question, then wait from each other during the courting stage, because you will not end up in a hostile stage, because there will be certain limitations that may stop you from entering into the betrothal stage. The world may call it engagement, right? Because the engagement in the world is satanic and it's not of Yah, because all these things we're doing, bachelor party and crap in this world thing with shippers and all those crap, it's not of the Yah, right? So before move from that stage to the betrothal stage, these conversations should be had. And I'm speaking this way because of what I've seen in my community and the ladies and the men that I've seen and been around. I know that a lot of things are set up for failure, because I've seen when they're in a relationship, what happened to the children. And some of them suffer in silence, because a lot of times men don't take care of a man's seed, but if a man is aside and he is seeking a sister who has a child, he must in the yard's righteous and yard's right and deal with him accordingly. Sister and start to and say, hey sister, okay, whatever you know, there are certain things about you that draws me to you and whatnot, and then he ignores her children. Oh, all right. He doesn't even know the child's name, he doesn't cuss it. But then all of a sudden they start to coming together and all those, and then soon she may have a child for him. And then when she have a child for him and she feel no more attached, she feel no more attached to it's one of my brother um attached to him, you know, because she has a child for him. I know he ignores the one child that she has. And guess what happened? Chaos in the home. He doesn't care for those children. You know, I think hopefully they can still hear me out there because I'm a bit hopefully they can still hear me out there. But okay. All right, yeah. And that's what we don't want. And that's what I don't want. So I'm tired of seeing it right around the communities. I've seen it here and I've seen it abroad. Yard and abroad. You know what I'm saying? And it affects our communities. And if you look around our communities, our people, statistics have shown the most unlikely to get married. And how much, and then enter into marriage and how much are going back into divorce. And who normally suffers many times? The children, because children are growing unbalanced without the proper rock in them, around them to guide them. And it has a direct impact on our community. You know, one brother, you know, it's a part of the generational curses of our people because of our disobedience to the Most High. Yeah. But at the end of it, we can come back to the sheepfold. We can come back through an in righteousness by seeking righteousness and the word of the Most High and how we enter into marriage. Because that's what we want to see. We'd love to see more people getting married. We'd love to see more husbands and wives and children raising up our children so we can see more of a light for the future. Because I don't remember where I saw or heard the statistics, but most people of our people who end up in crime are from single parent household. That's an appalling, if that's, I haven't necessarily fact checked that one, but if that's a true fact, then it's very appalling that leaders must look to fix families. Because if they can fix a family, because when you know, people enter the crime in all different capacity, you know, but these hard crimes that you see out there, if the evidence are showing that it's a lot of these people who end up in this position are from single parent household, then it's not necessarily state of emergency to fix the crime problem. You got to fix it from the foundation. Because if you don't have a foundation set properly, then how can you expect the house to stand? How can you expect when the trees are grown, as our parents used to say, my mom used to say when I guess heard it from her grand aunt, you know, you have to bend the tree from its young. Because when it get older and firm, you cannot bend the tree again. So you have to create that good seed and that good child from its young. So when the child grows up and becoming a crime lord or a crime star or whatever, how can you solve that anymore? So, but they need the foundation from day one. They need a foundation from day one. I heard years ago, I heard this about a prominent school, high school here, that a principal took over and the school was very rowdy. I'm not sure how true it is, but I heard it within the school sector, I think, within the education sector, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I don't exactly remember where I heard it. But the high school principal took over and the school children was very out of order. Very out of order. And it was a rough school. And according to what I heard this principal did, he said, you know what? Normally school go up to first form to fifth form, right? 5 years in high school. And I heard what the principal did was, I'm going to invest my time to all the newcomers from they enter in the first form. And while those 5 years start to filter out, he will be very hard pressed on the ones that enter first form the next year. And if that is true, but I know the school now is a very disciplined school. I didn't know about that time the person spoke about, but I can understand the analogy, even if it wasn't so, because he recognized that who is there gone bad already, he can't fix them. But he can fix who's coming in. He can fix the newborns, the new ones. And he can work hard to ensure that they don't end up become like the older ones. And the influence, he keeps them away from that influence of the ones who were there before them. So by the time they become the final year, it's a new breed. We got to work from the foundation. And the foundation is a family. The foundation is how we rear our children. The foundation, our children must hate wrong and hate wickedness. And it can only happen, it starts from the home. That's the foundation of the family. So it's not a state of emergency that's going to solve crime. Well, if they're not talking about the foundation and the structure of the family and how they can get families back together as our fathers were, even before they took us in this strange land via captivity. Pretending like we weren't taken, or pretending like they forget that our structures and how this Eurocentric Western that is currently has currently trained us. Focus on family and build back family. So the hemorrhage of our people, and as a result, when children start to grow because they have a solid foundation with family, then you know the result of a safer generation, a safer community, a safer country will have a direct impact. So that's something for them to think about. For us in this community, instead of party, we in the Most High, we have to continue the word. We have to continue to speak about the word. We have to continue to speak about families and broken families. And this topic here is mentioning single mothers wanting marriage. Because do not neglect the conversation around the children. Let me just make a quick move. A moment, please. Yep. As if a man is courting a sister, a man is courting you, and you have a child, and he's not having a conversation about your child and how child, the entire involvement, then there are red flags that you guys can look for. Because if you desire marriage, and not just a man just to come rock your boat and leave with another child to disappear as the child father for circumstances. Not say all, but many. Because some fathers are deceased, some situation. Right? But in most situations, you gotta learn to know the red flag. And you gotta be strong as a sister. You gotta be strong. Don't be concerned about the little changes throwing at you, trying to flaunt with you and trying to flirt with you because he knows what he wants. There are a lot of stuff you can look to see if he's serious and if he's genuine. If you have a elder uncle who is solid, if you have an elder in your community who is solid, another couple, another marriage or whatever person that is married who is solid, don't be shy to go ask a question. Just don't be shy to say, hey, this guy, whatever. Seek some clarity, seek help, because I know you don't want to fall in the victim of having another child or two children and the father is not there. Because the likelihood of getting married is going to be very slim. Because the fact of the matter is, the woman who who have no children are the most desirous. Once you start having children and fathers, you become less desirous, because generally speaking, a man never like to raise another man, but men will, because some sisters are good sisters and worth over covering, but there are certain steps that needs to be had during the courting stage, and then the conversation that should come to forth during the courting stage. So you can establish between you guys if this is going to move to a betrothal. A betrothal is, in a sense, marriage, because it's a commitment now, and a man must be of his word. So things should be established. It's almost like, for me, we've spent a lot of years in sales and selling at possibly close to the highest level of enterprise. And when I'm approaching a client, a prospect, because I've done a lot of sales, and when I approach a prospect, there are certain criteria, there are certain protocols, there are certain steps that needs to be followed before you get a contract signed, before you ask for the sale, before you say sign here on the dotted line. Because you can't just approach a customer, a potential client, and just say, hey, my name is this and I'm selling this, sign. Will you buy? There are certain steps, there are certain qualifications, there are certain processes that you have to go through, especially in a job where sometimes the sales cycle can be pretty long. There are certain steps that you have to follow before you ask for that sale. If you ask for that sale too early, the client will say no. And then you start to backtrack, and you never want to backtrack in sales. So, not that it's the same with marriage, but there are lessons that can be learned from this type of job. You've been approached, you've been court, you want to establish certain things, so you don't think about, oh man, I wish I didn't do it. I wouldn't lay with this guy. I wish I didn't do it. Now he says he doesn't want to be a part. He didn't want any children, and I don't know why he didn't use protection. I don't know why this, and they talk about Planned Parenthood and abortion and all the different jazz. Have the conversation, because it should be marriage for these activities. It should be marriage before these children together. There should be marriage. And sisters, not because you have a child and you know that you have to come together to get a child. If another man is approaching you, you think it's just free for all, you just lay with him. You need to understand that it is not biblical. So you're not a maiden, not a virgin, doesn't mean that you must continue in whoredom, so to speak, against the most righteousness, because that doesn't hold men. That doesn't really hold true men of here. True men of here is solid helpmeet, solid sister, virtuous, who's humble, who's shamefaced, who know to balance the boat and help row the boat. True men of here is not about notch on his belt if he has this sister and that sister. Because true men of here take care of children. True men of here take care of their seed. They don't just drop them by and go back. Those reprobate men. So look out for the red flag, sister. Look out for the warning signs, because they are there. If a man means good and he's trying to court you and talk to you, I'm using the word courting because they're saying these days a man just come out a local man. But if they're courting you and you will see the red flags, and if you don't know, but if you know any community or person who is see who you recognize as if these people have a good mind or whatever, older we know probably his wife is deceased or if his wife is still there on their own, and you want to get an advice, you should. Because if you desire marriage, you don't want the man to come play with. And I've seen other sisters have to defending for themselves because they don't have exposed to such a community. But we would like about that community, whether by the medium of the internet, whether by the medium of telecommunications. We would like to have such a community where men, brothers, and sisters are able to seek guidance, seek help, have the conversation, ask a thing or two about marriage. Hey, talk to somebody. This guy's approaching me, sister. This brother's approaching me. I have a brother, I have the sister that, I see and I like to approach. If she doesn't have a father, that with the body, in terms of, because we like to keep things righteous as we see from fathers, because the book and the scriptures is the best example of seeing what to make marriage work. I haven't seen anything else to testify. Say so. The book, the scriptures, is my guide because I've seen our fathers, and there may be differences. They have the wife till the end. So we just wanted to give a shout out. Just want to give a shout out to these things. And just raise a hand and to them forth, because I've seen they have been ignored too much about that child, that silent child. The child not involved when they're going out on dinner. The child is not involved when they're sitting down late at night and chat. The child is not there, right? In the conversation when the woman and man is talking during the process. But the conversation about the child must be a part of the courting process. Because if that man is ignoring that child, what will happen? Even if you guys get married, what will happen? What should do? And if the father or child come and say, I want this child to come, father come and child say, hey, stay up late. Your bedtime is 11 o'clock. I'm okay with that. And the father one say, no, your bedtime is 9. You have to go to school. Then the child going to have conflict within. And he's going to struggle. But it's a difficult situation for a community. So I certainly trust that in light of all things, there's still hope there for us. And in light of all things, that we are able to mend, to repair the breach. But most is repair of all breach. You know what I'm saying? He's a breach repairer. So take all the thing to him all the time, but there's people in people's life as well. And, because I know in my life, he has sent people along to help me along my journey. And I thank the Most High for that, because I just really do it on my own. And I have many stories is about that. There are a lot of people who are sent, from relatives to stranger, so to speak, to help me along my journey. So the Most I recognize where you are, and He will send help if you desire to have it, and to guide you to be that person, to be that man, to be that woman that you ought to be, fearing Him and keeping His. You know what I'm saying? But we know the book, the scriptures, family. It's focused on the family a lot. Focus on the family a lot. It's focused on family. And even though right now we have been miseducated and indoctrinated with false teaching about what family is. And all these different genre now coming on family. And they're trying to bring it in our schools. Trying to teach our 6-year-olds, 7-year-old children, telling them about this and that. We have to stand firm in it. Because we are us men are the defender of our house. So we know what's going on. Let's try to help and stop the miseducation as well. So we need to train our children. Parents are the first teachers. Again, our community, we got here through certain means. Lest we forget how we got here. What did we know? What caused us to be brought here? Many people don't know. It's because of our disobedience to the Most High. He sold us to the Grecians, and he sold us and sent us into captivity across the four corners of the earth because of obedience to the Most High. So it's not just why people come and take us ships and all these different jazz. But we know we got into the islands, we know we got into North America, we know our people got there. We did not initially, our fathers and our mothers did not go and buy a ticket to go on those boats. We know that. So let's not be comfortable to say where we are. But while we're in this land of our captivity, though, the Father, as he did with the fathers before when they went into Babylon, said, do not diminish. Right? Do not diminish. Take for your sons and give your daughter into marriage and increase in the land of your captivity. And that's a good example for us as well. So, I mean, we're just trying to play our part where we can to bring to the fold, bring to the surface the challenges and something that can affect marriage, especially with single mothers who want to get married, have a desire to get married, wanting to be a part of a community, a family. And again, whether they choose, whether the decision a man who has this existing family looking to have someone join his family, or is a man with no family and just to have a family. So it is up to where you guys are with that. But the child can't be that silent person. You can't be silent about the child, rather. You can't be where the child not spoken about. The conversation doesn't involve the child, just the man and the woman and what they're going to do and whatever. And then the child is just there. And when everything's now come together and everything's sealed up, oh, what do you do with this child? How do you child father? That time you're already married. And once a man marries a woman, you should stay with her. Because we don't support divorce. Right? People should remain righteous within their marriage. But then it's become confusing and stressful for the father and even so more the child. Because now the child is in limbo now because he or she wasn't a part of the initial conversation. So we got to know where we stand. This is not all by means the be all and end all conversation. This is not all that I know everything about this topic. It's just based on other observation, conversations, whatever experience I've seen while I'm having the conversation. I'm by no stretch of the imagination expert on the topic. So I'm not here to say what I say goes, but if you find anything edifying for what I'm saying, let the Most High be praised. Because it is not to me, because I only have what I have because the Most High has allowed me to even be able to speak. So all glory unto the one that keeps me alive. All glory to Abba. I know all things. I know yesterday from today. No tomorrow from today. So let this not be the end of your trying to understand the topic as a single mother wanting to get into marriage. Let it be that if you are, consider going back to the book, the scriptures. That is, for me, is the best guide. And see what the patriarchs did. And you got to have to face the hard truth, though, because these things aren't taught. These things weren't taught to us. So we are relearning now. We are relearning and we are unlearning certain things that were taught and relearning the righteous way. So, I mean, let the Most High be praised. I think I've chosen the topic long enough. Hope I bore. I don't bore anyone who has seen it or who has stumbled upon this video. Just that, even through the Most High Rock Kadesh, that there may be something edifying that I've spoken of. And if there's any error in my speech, let the Most High guide me through His righteousness to hear and see if there what I've said. Because we want to stay on path and on track with the Most High in what we do. Not mislead, not to misguide, not to educate, but through His Ruach HaKodesh to just try to bring back to the sheepfold that we are able to live righteously, and be guarded and protected by Him. Let you have it. I think I'm going to wrap it up for now. And don't let this end your continuation. Let this end your search for understanding of the topic. Continue to dig for scriptures to find it. Right? And seek the Most High while it's able to be found. Well, this is Ben Israel again for another time. It's not my normal time to chat, but I thought it was prudent to this topic. I don't normally come during the weeks and talk, but let you have a praise. Because it may be a time that someone may need it if it's needed. So this is Ben Israel checking out again from the Kodesh Homestead here with the land ministry. I got this way I say shalom, stay safe where you are. Be wise, be alert, because we are living in some serious times. And stay safe till we see you again. Shalom in the name of the Most High. Hallelujah.